I stood on the graduation stage, diploma in hand, when my phone buzzed for the 5th time. The dean's congratulatory speech faded into white noise as I glanced at the screen. Another message from Dad. Family emergency. Come home now. My name is Willow, and that was the moment my carefully planned future began to crumble. I ducked out early, my graduation gown billowing behind me as I rushed through the parking lot. The celebration dinner I'd planned with friends would have to wait. My father never used capital letters in texts unless something was seriously wrong. The drive home felt endless. Every red light mocked my growing anxiety. When I finally pulled into the circular driveway of our family estate, I noticed Ethan's Ferrari parked crookedly near the entrance. Of course my brother would be here, probably the source of whatever crisis had erupted. Inside, voices echoed from Dad's study. I paused in the doorway, taking in the scene. Mom sat rigid in her usual armchair, while Dad paced behind his massive oak desk. Ethan lounged on the leather sofa, tie loose, looking bored. "Finally," Dad said, stopping mid-stride. "Close the door." I did as told, remaining standing. "What's going on?" "Summit Enterprises is in trouble," Dad's voice cracked. "Serious trouble." "Define serious," I said, though my stomach already knew the answer. "We're looking at potential bankruptcy within 6 months unless drastic changes are made." He slumped into his chair. "The board is demanding new leadership." Ethan snorted. "They can demand all they want. It's still our company." "Actually," Dad said, "they have enough voting power to force the issue." He looked directly at me, "Which is why I've made a decision." The weight of his gaze made my skin crawl. I'd seen that look before, when he needed something fixed, usually cleaning up after one of Ethan's mistakes. "You're taking over as CEO, effective immediately." The words hit like a physical blow. "What? No. I start at Goldman Sachs next month, you know that." "This isn't a request, Willow." Dad's tone hardened. "The company needs you." "The company needs me?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "What about the last 4 years when I begged to be involved? When I warned you about the expansion risks? That's enough." Dad slammed his hand on the desk. "This isn't about the past. This is about saving our family's legacy." I looked at Ethan, who was suddenly very interested in his phone. "And what about him? He's the eldest. He's been working there for years." Mom finally spoke, her voice soft. "Honey, the board specifically requested you." "Because they know I'm the only one who actually studied business," I snapped. "While Golden Boy here was busy spending company money on parties and failed ventures." Ethan's head shot up. "Watch it, little sister." "Or what? You'll waste more millions on another crypto scheme?" "Enough!" Dad roared. "This isn't up for debate. You're taking the position or we lose everything. The house, the company, everything your grandfather built." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of my graduation cap still perched on my head. Such a stupid, pointless symbol now. "And my job offer?" "I'll call Richard at Goldman myself. He'll understand." Of course he would, because Dad's golf buddy would do him this favor, just like everyone always did favors for the great Mark Sullivan. "Fine." I yanked off my cap, letting it fall to the floor. "But I have conditions." Dad's expression darkened. "This isn't a negotiation." "Actually, it is. You need me more than I need you." I stepped closer to his desk. "I want full autonomy, no interference from the family board members, and a complete audit of all accounts from the past 5 years. Ethan stood up. "You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious." I turned to face him. "If I'm going to fix this mess, I need to know exactly how deep the rot goes." The silence that followed was deafening. Dad and Ethan exchanged glances, while Mom studied her hands. Finally, Dad nodded. "Done. You start Monday." I walked out without another word, leaving my graduation cap where it had fallen. As I passed the family portraits lining the hallway, I caught my reflection in the glass, still wearing that stupid gown, but my eyes had changed. They looked older, harder. This wasn't how I'd planned to start my career, but maybe it was better. After all, you can't fix a broken system from the outside. And Summit Enterprises was definitely broken. I just hadn't realized how badly I wanted to be the one to break it completely. The mahogany conference table stretched before me like a battlefield. 8 hours into my first day as CEO, and I'd already discovered 3 unauthorized wire transfers to offshore accounts. The latest one sat on my laptop screen, $500,000 to a shell company in the Cayman Islands, authorized by Ethan just last week. A knock at the door interrupted my brooding. Karen, our head of accounting, entered with a stack of folders. Her face carried the weary look of someone who'd kept too many secrets for too long. "Those quarterly reports you asked for," she said, placing them on my desk. Then quieter. "There's more." "Show me." She opened the top folder, pointing to a series of highlighted transactions. "These equipment purchases? They don't exist. The invoices are fake, but the money's very real." The door burst open. Ethan sauntered in, all designer suit and artificial charm. "Family dinner tonight, sis. Dad's orders." I closed the laptop. "I'm busy. Not a request." He glanced at Karen. "Don't you have somewhere else to be?" Karen straightened, looking to me. I nodded slightly, and she gathered her remaining files. "We'll continue this tomorrow." After she left, Ethan sprawled in the chair across from me. "Playing detective already?" "Someone has to." I met his gaze. "Want to explain the Cayman transfer?" "Business investment, all above board." "In what exactly?" He shrugged. "You wouldn't understand, it's complicated. Try me. I did graduate summa cum laude in finance." "Right." He rolled his eyes. "How could I forget? Little Miss Perfect with her fancy degree." He stood, adjusting his cuffs. "Dinner's at 7. Don't be late." The family dining room felt smaller than I remembered. Maybe it was the tension thick enough to choke on, or maybe it was Dad's disappointed stare as I detailed the company's actual financial situation. "These numbers can't be right," he insisted, pushing away his barely touched steak. "They are." I pulled out the forensic accounting report. "We're hemorrhaging money. The Asian expansion was a disaster. The tech investment fund is empty, and somehow we're paying lease agreements on properties that don't exist." Mom's fork clattered against her plate. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, looking directly at Ethan, "someone's been stealing." Ethan laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Careful, sis. Accusations like that could get you sued." Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Dad's fist hit the table. "Enough! Willow, you've been CEO for 1 day. 1 day. And already you're trying to tear this family apart. I'm trying to save the company. By attacking your brother?" He shook his head. "This is exactly why I didn't want you involved before. You've always been jealous of Ethan's success." "Success?" I stood, throwing my napkin down. "The company's worth half what it was 5 years ago. Our stock is tanking. Major clients are jumping ship. That's not success, that's systematic destruction." "You ungrateful little..." Ethan started, but Mom cut him off. "Please," she begged. "Can't we just have one peaceful dinner?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the strain around her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. How long had she been playing peacekeeper while watching everything crumble? "I'm sorry, Mom." I gathered my things. "But peace isn't going to save Summit Enterprises. Truth will." Later that night, a knock on my office door revealed James, our VP of Operations. He carried a USB drive and an expression of grim determination. "Karen said you were looking into the missing funds." He placed the drive on my desk. "You should see this, but be careful who you trust with it. Some of us have been keeping records, waiting for someone who'd actually do something." I picked up the drive, feeling its weight, not just physical, but the weight of decisions to come. "Why didn't you come forward before?" "Your father wouldn't listen." The board was in Ethan's pocket. He headed for the door, then paused. "Just watch your back. Your brother's got friends in dark places." After he left, I stared at the drive, thinking about Mom's trembling hands, Dad's blind loyalty, and Ethan's smug certainty that he was untouchable. Well, let him think that. Let them all think I'm just the jealous little sister, the naive newcomer trying to prove herself. By the time they realize what I'm really doing, it'll be too late. I plugged in the drive and started reading. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with meticulous documentation and an airtight paper trail. The USB drive's contents kept me awake for 3 straight nights. Each spreadsheet revealed another layer of deception. Company funds diverted to private jets, phantom real estate deals, and something called Project Phoenix that burned through millions with no apparent purpose. I was staring at the latest batch of documents when Karen rushed into my office, face pale. "They're deleting files from the server, right now." My coffee cup hit the desk. "What?" "Someone's systematically erasing financial records. I've got IT trying to stop it, but..." "Show me." We sprinted to the server room, where James was already working with 2 tech specialists. Numbers and codes scrolled across their screens like digital rain. "Can you stop it?" I demanded. James shook his head. "It's coming from an executive access point, someone with top-level credentials." My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Cleaning house, don't interfere." "Lock him out," I ordered. "Can't," James replied. "His access is hard-coded into the system. Your father's orders." Of course it was. I grabbed my phone and dialed Dad's number. Straight to voicemail. Typical. "Save what you can," I told the team. "Karen, get me every physical backup we have. James, document everything that's being deleted. We need proof." I stormed toward Ethan's office, but his assistant said he was in meetings all day. Translation: probably on his yacht with whatever social climbers were currently feeding his ego. Back in my office, I found Mom waiting. "I heard about the server incident," she said softly. "Did you know?" The words came out sharper than intended. "About what he's been doing?" She smoothed her already perfect skirt. "Your father believes in protecting family at any cost." "This isn't protection, Mom. It's corruption." "Perhaps." She reached into her purse and withdrew an old leather portfolio. "But you might want to see this before you judge too harshly." Inside were documents dating back to when Ethan first joined the company. Performance reviews, incident reports, and letters from concerned board members, all buried, all warning about his behavior. "Dad covered everything up," I whispered. "He thought he was helping." Mom's voice cracked slightly. "Sometimes love makes us blind to the damage we're causing." A knock interrupted us. Sophia from marketing entered, clutching a tablet. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. Ethan just announced a major restructuring to the press. Without board approval." The headline blazed across her screen. "Summit Enterprises announces global expansion. CEO questions sister's leadership." My hands clenched. The article quoted Ethan calling my leadership unstable and potentially destructive to company interests. "He's trying to force me out," I realized. "There's more," Sophia said. "He's scheduled a board meeting for tomorrow. Word is he's proposing to consolidate executive power." Mom touched my arm. "Willow, be careful. Your brother is going to destroy everything unless someone stops him." I turned to Sophia. "Get me everything you have on the press release." Karen appeared in the doorway. "Already on it. The numbers he quoted to the press? Complete fiction. We can prove it." Good. I felt something shift inside me, the last traces of sisterly affection hardening into steel. "Mom, you should go. What happens next? You probably don't want to be involved." She hesitated, then nodded. At the door, she paused. "Your grandfather built this company on honesty. Remember that." After she left, I gathered my team. "Ethan thinks he can erase evidence and spin lies to save himself. He's wrong. Karen, get me those backup files. James, I need server access logs showing exactly when and where the deletions originated. Sophia, prepare a press response." "What are you going to do?" James asked. I opened my laptop, pulling up the damning documents I'd been gathering. "I'm going to give my dear brother exactly what he wants. Attention. By this time tomorrow, everyone will know exactly what kind of leader Ethan Sullivan really is." "He'll fight back," Karen warned. "Let him." I thought of all the times I'd stayed quiet, played nice, watched him destroy what our grandfather built. I'm done protecting family at the expense of what's right. As they left to execute their tasks, I stared at the family photo on my wall, taken years ago, when we still pretended to be happy. With deliberate movements, I took it down and placed it face down in my drawer. Sometimes the greatest act of loyalty is being willing to tear everything down to build it back right. The board meeting room felt like a tomb. 14 pairs of eyes watched me present the new financial oversight policies, but only Ethan's held that particular gleam of malice. He sat at the far end, phone in hand, smirking. "These restrictions are excessive," he interrupted, not looking up from his screen. "We need flexibility to pursue opportunities." "Like Project Phoenix?" I clicked to the next slide. $15 million spent on a venture that doesn't exist? The room temperature seemed to drop. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. "That's confidential information," Ethan snapped. "Nothing's confidential when it involves company funds." I distributed folders containing the evidence Karen had helped compile. "These are unauthorized withdrawals from the past 6 months alone." As papers rustled, Ryan, Dad's oldest friend and our chief advisor, cleared his throat. "Willow, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No more private discussions." I stayed standing. "No more covering up losses. No more—" The boardroom door burst open. Dad stormed in, face flushed. "Meeting adjourned." We're not finished, I protested. Yes, we are. He grabbed my arm, pulling me toward his office. Behind us, I heard Ethan's low chuckle. Inside, Dad slammed the door. What the hell do you think you're doing? My job, protecting the company. By attacking your brother? Airing family business to the board? Someone has to stop him before... Before what? Dad's voice rose. Before he succeeds? Before he proves you wrong? I stared at him, really seeing him for the first time. You know, don't you? About everything he's done? His silence was answer enough. Why? The word felt like glass in my throat. Why let him destroy everything? You don't understand, he said quietly. Ethan needs this. The company, the power. It's all he has. And what about what I need? A knock interrupted us. James entered, face grim. Sorry, but you need to see this immediately. He handed me his tablet. On screen was an email from our largest client, terminating their contract effective immediately. The reason cited, concerns about company stability and leadership. Ethan reached out to them last night, James explained. Told them you were making unauthorized changes, destabilizing operations. My hands shook. He's sabotaging us. He's protecting his position, Dad corrected. By destroying the company? By removing a threat. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe it's best if you take some time off. Clear your head. You're suspending me? Temporarily. He shuffled papers on his desk. Until things settle down. I laughed, a harsh sound that surprised even me. Things won't settle down. They'll get worse. And when this company crashes, remember this moment. Remember whose side you chose. In the hallway, Karen waited with a stack of documents. I heard. What do you want me to do with these? I glanced at the financial records we'd planned to present. Make copies. Lots of copies. And Karen? I lowered my voice. Thank you. For everything. She touched my arm. Be careful. Security's been instructed to escort you out. Of course they have. I straightened my spine, grabbed my purse. Tell James and Sophia to watch their backs, and their emails. The walk to the elevator felt endless. Employees avoided my gaze. Through the glass walls of his office, I saw Ethan on the phone, grinning. Outside, the Chicago wind whipped my hair. My phone buzzed. Mom calling. I ignored it. Instead, I dialed a number I'd memorized but never used. After 3 rings, a familiar voice answered. Vanguard International? Ryan speaking. It's Willow Sullivan. Remember that offer you made last year? About starting fresh? A pause. I remember. But the non-compete clause in your contract won't matter soon. I watched the Summit Enterprises logo gleam against the sky. How quickly can you meet? Tonight, 8 o'clock, the usual place. I hung up, feeling something shift inside me. Dad was right. I didn't understand family loyalty. Not the way he meant it. But I understood justice. And sometimes justice meant burning everything down to build something better. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ethan. Nothing personal, sis. Just business. I smiled, thinking of the copies Karen was making. The evidence safely backed up in 3 different locations. Just business, I whispered. We'll see about that. Ryan's office at Vanguard International occupied the entire top floor of a sleek downtown building. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched Summit's headquarters gleam in the distance like a knife. Your brother's been busy, Ryan said, sliding a tablet across his desk. 3 more clients jumped ship this morning. The numbers on screen made my stomach clench. Summit's stock had plummeted 15% since my suspension. He's burning it all down, I muttered. No. Ryan leaned forward. He's transforming it. Look deeper. I scrolled through the reports, seeing the pattern emerge. Every lost client had been replaced with new ones, all connected to something called Apex Holdings. Shell companies, Ryan explained, all traced back to offshore accounts. He's not just stealing anymore, he's rebuilding Summit in his image. My phone buzzed. Karen. Emergency. Meet at usual place. Found something about Project Phoenix. I have to go. I stood, but Ryan caught my arm. Whatever you're planning, remember, revenge has a price. So does letting him win. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. Karen sat in our usual corner, hands wrapped around an untouched coffee. They fired James this morning, she said without preamble. Sophia too. Anyone who supported you is being systematically removed. I gripped the edge of the table. What did you find? She pulled out a thumb drive. Project Phoenix isn't just money laundering. It's a complete corporate takeover. Ethan's been secretly buying up shares through dummy corporations for months. By next quarter, he'll have controlling interest. That's impossible. The family trust is being dissolved. Your father signed the papers yesterday. The world tilted sideways. Dad would never, except he would. For Ethan, he'd burn down heaven itself. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. Come home, please. We need to talk. Don't go, Karen warned. It's a trap. I know. I stood anyway. But I need to see this for myself. The family estate looked exactly the same, but felt different, like a stage set where everyone was playing their parts. Mom waited in the garden, her favorite roses blooming around her. You shouldn't have come back, she said softly. Why? Because Ethan's finally showing his true colors? Because your father's dying. The words hit like physical blows. What? Cancer. Stage 4. He has maybe 6 months. She wouldn't meet my eyes. That's why he's letting Ethan take control now. He wants to see his son succeed before... His son. I laughed bitterly. And what about his daughter? Willow. No, don't try to justify this. My voice shook. Dad's dying, so he gets to destroy everything grandfather built. Ethan gets to steal the company because what? He needs it more? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I turned to leave, then stopped. Did you know about Project Phoenix from the beginning? Her silence was answer enough. Back in my car, I called Ryan. Remember that offer to help start over? I'm in, but I have conditions. Name them. I want Karen, James, and Sophia. Full positions, better salaries than Summit ever gave them. I started the engine. And I want everything you have on Apex Holdings. That could get messy. Good. I watched Mom through the rearview mirror, still standing among her roses. Messy is exactly what I need. My phone buzzed one last time. Ethan. Heard you visited Mom. Ready to apologize yet? I thought about Dad, dying in his office while Ethan dismantled his legacy. About Mom tending her garden while everything burned. About the company our grandfather built from nothing, being hollowed out by greed. No apologies, I typed back. But thanks for teaching me something important. Oh? What's that? That sometimes the only way to honor a legacy is to burn it down and build something better from the ashes. I turned off my phone and headed toward Vanguard International. Behind me, Summit's tower caught the setting sun, blazing like a funeral pyre against the darkening sky. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I was done with cold. It was time for fire. Dad's 60th birthday gala transformed the Chicago Art Institute into a monument to excess. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and Chicago's elite mingling beneath priceless paintings. The perfect stage for what I was about to do. You shouldn't be here, Mom whispered as I passed. She looked older tonight, worry lines deeper around her eyes. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, clutching my purse containing the USB drive. How's the guest of honor? Tired. The treatments. Save it. I spotted Ethan holding court near the main display, Dad beaming beside him. I'm not here for sympathy. Karen appeared at my elbow, discreet as always. Everything's ready. The presentation's loaded into the system. And the press? 3 financial reporters as requested. Back corner by the Monet. I checked my watch. 10 minutes until Ethan's big speech about Summit's bright future. 10 minutes until I destroyed everything. Last chance to reconsider, Ryan murmured, appearing with 2 champagne flutes. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. I took the champagne but didn't drink. Some shouldn't be. The lights dimmed. Ethan took the podium, all perfect smile and tailored suit. Distinguished guests, family, friends. We're here tonight not just to celebrate my father's birthday, but to announce Summit Enterprises' bold new direction. I moved toward the AV control panel, but a firm hand caught my arm. Dad. Don't, he said quietly. His face was gaunt, the cancer eating him from inside. Please. You knew, my voice cracked. About Project Phoenix, the shell companies, everything, and you let him. He's my son. And what am I? Pain flickered across his face. The strong one. The one who doesn't need what? Love? Support? Basic human decency? Ladies and gentlemen, Ethan continued, I'm proud to announce our acquisition of Apex Holdings. I pulled away from Dad. Watch closely. See what your precious son really is. The presentation screen flickered. Instead of Ethan's corporate propaganda, financial statements appeared. Wire transfers, shell companies, the systematic looting of Summit Enterprises. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan froze mid-sentence. Those documents are fake, he recovered quickly. A sad attempt by my sister to... They're real, I stepped forward. Every transaction verified, every dollar you stole documented. Would you like me to explain Project Phoenix to everyone, or should I let the SEC do that? Security, Dad barked. Remove her. Too late. I nodded toward the reporters, already typing furiously on their phones. It's already hitting the news wires. Ethan's mask slipped. For a moment, I saw raw fury beneath. You stupid bitch. You have no idea what you've done. I know exactly what I've done. I turned to the stunned crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, while you've been drinking champagne, Summit Enterprises has been systematically stripped of assets. By tomorrow, shares will be worthless. But don't worry, Ethan's offshore accounts are very healthy. Enough! Dad stumbled forward, face gray. Willow, stop this now! Why? Because it's killing you? Newsflash, Dad. You're already dying. The only difference is, now everyone will know what you let happen. He swayed. Mom rushed to support him. Get out! Ethan snarled. You're done here. The board will never... The board? I laughed. Check your phone, brother dear. The SEC just froze all Summit's accounts, including your precious Apex holdings. Dad collapsed. As chaos erupted, I watched Mom and Ethan rush to him, the perfect family tableau. No one noticed me slip away. Outside, Karen waited in the car. It's done, I said, sliding into the passenger seat. Any word from James? Transfer completed. We own controlling interest in Vanguard International. My phone exploded with notifications. Summit stock plummeting. Dad rushed to hospital. Ethan under investigation. You okay? Karen asked softly. I watched ambulance lights reflect off the museum's windows. Inside, my family's carefully constructed world was burning. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. Drive, I said. We have work to do. As we pulled away, I got one last text. From Mom. He's asking for you. I turned off my phone. Some bridges shouldn't be rebuilt. Some fires need to burn until nothing remains but ash. And from ash, something new could rise. Something honest. Something mine. But first, the old had to fall, and I just pushed it over the edge. 3 weeks after the gala, Summit Enterprises stock hit rock bottom. I watched from my new office at Vanguard International as reporters swarmed the entrance of Summit's building, their cameras catching Ethan's desperate escape through a side door. My phone lit up. Dad's hospital room. He's asking for you again, Mom said, her voice thin with exhaustion. The doctors say... I know what they say. I stood at the window, watching Ethan's Maserati screech away from the media circus. How's the golden boy handling things? He's... struggling. The board meeting tomorrow will be his last. I checked my watch. The SEC's announcement goes public in 20 minutes. Silence stretched between us. Then, you knew this would happen. I counted on it. James appeared in my doorway, tablet in hand. They're ready. I have to go, I told Mom. Give Dad my love. Willow, wait! I hung up, following James to the conference room where Karen and Sophia waited with our legal team. On the wall screen, Summit's stock price continued its death spiral. Ethan's called an emergency board meeting, Sophia reported. He's trying to secure emergency funding. He won't find it. I smoothed my skirt, checking my reflection in the window. Not with what's about to hit the news. My phone buzzed again. Ethan. Come to gloat? He snarled before I could speak. Actually, I'm calling to make an offer. Go to hell. The board meets in 3 hours. By then, the SEC will have announced their investigation into Project Phoenix. Every cent you stole, every shell company, every fake transaction, all public record. You're bluffing. Check your email. I just sent you proof of what's coming, but I'm offering you a way out. A pause, paper rustling, then a sharp intake of breath. What do you want? Resign. Sign over your shares to me. Walk away with enough to start over somewhere far from here. Or what? Or I let the SEC have everything, including the evidence Dad helped cover up your earliest frauds. His legacy dies with yours. You wouldn't. Try me. The summit boardroom felt smaller than I remembered. Ethan sat alone at the head of the table, tie loose, hair disheveled, the mighty fallen. Sign here, my lawyer said, sliding documents across the polished surface. Ethan's hand shook as he reached for the pen. You planned this from the beginning. No, you did. Every theft, every lie, every time you undermined me, you built this moment yourself. Dad trusted me. Dad enabled you. There's a difference. He signed with a violent flourish. Happy now? Got your revenge? This isn't revenge, Ethan. It's justice. My phone buzzed. Karen. SEC announcement just dropped. Media's going crazy. Through the windows, I watched reporters gathering below. Soon they'd know Summit Enterprises had a new majority shareholder. That Vanguard International would be orchestrating a hostile takeover. That the prodigal daughter had returned to claim her birthright. You should go, I told Ethan. There's a car waiting at the loading dock. It'll take you to the airport. That's it? Exile? More than you deserve. He stood, straightening his tie one last time. At the door, he paused. Does it feel good? Destroying everything Dad built? Dad built nothing. I met his gaze. Grandfather did, and I'm going to rebuild it, the right way this time. After he left, I sat in our father's old chair, running my fingers over the worn leather armrests. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. Dad's gone. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of everything. Victory, loss, justice, pain, settle onto my shoulders. Ms. Sullivan? My new assistant Emily appeared in the doorway. The press is waiting for your statement. I stood, straightening my spine. Through the window, Summit's logo caught the morning sun, soon to be replaced with something new, something honest. Tell them I'm ready. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying everything. Sometimes it's about clearing away the rot so something better can grow. And I was ready to plant those seeds. The morning headline screamed, Summit Enterprises acquired by Vanguard International. I set the paper aside, watching dawn break over Chicago from my grandfather's restored office. His portrait hung where Dad's once did, stern eyes watching me rebuild what his son and grandson nearly destroyed. A knock at the door. Mom entered, carrying a worn leather portfolio I'd never seen before. Found this in your father's study, she said, placing it on the desk. He wanted you to have it. Inside were letters, dozens of them. All from me to Dad, starting from my first year at business school. Business proposals, strategy suggestions, warnings about Ethan's spending. Each one annotated in Dad's cramped handwriting. Valid point. Smart strategy. Should have listened. He read them all, Mom said softly. Every single one. But he never acted on them. No, he was too afraid of losing Ethan. She touched the portfolio. And too certain he couldn't lose you. My phone buzzed. Karen texting from the boardroom. They're ready. The merger announcement? Mom nodded. I saw the press gathering outside. I stood, straightening my jacket. You don't have to stay. Actually, she pulled an envelope from her purse. I have something else for you. Those board shares I inherited from your father? I'm signing them over to you. Mom, I've watched from the sidelines too long. Her hands were steady as she signed the transfer papers. It's time to choose a side. The boardroom fell silent as we entered together. Karen and James sat straighter, while Sophia smiled slightly. The old Summit board members, the few who'd survived the SEC investigation, shifted uncomfortably. I took my place at the head of the table, Mom sitting at my right hand. The merger documents are prepared, my lawyer announced. Summit Enterprises will be formally dissolved, its assets integrated into Vanguard International. And the name? Someone asked. Will be retired. I met each gaze around the table. It's time for something new. As papers circulated for signatures, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown international number. Ethan. Saw the news. Congratulations, sis. You won. I didn't reply. Some victories don't need acknowledgement. After the meeting, I found Ryan waiting in my office. Quite a triumph, he said. Your grandfather would be proud. Would he? I destroyed his company. No, you saved his legacy. Different thing entirely. On my desk, a small package waited. Inside was a single rose and a card in Mom's handwriting. I kept every letter you wrote your father, and every night I told him he was wrong. Some battles are fought in whispers. I thought of all the quiet ways she'd fought, the subtle warnings, The careful documentation, the silent support as I dismantled the house that pride and favoritism built. The press conference starts in 10 minutes, Emily reminded me from the doorway. I nodded, but lingered at the window. Below, workers were carefully removing the Summit Enterprises sign, revealing the ghost of older lettering beneath, my grandfather's original company name from 50 years ago. "What are you thinking?" Mom asked, joining me. "About legacies and how they're not what we think." She squeezed my hand. "Ready?" I picked up my grandfather's fountain pen, the one Dad had never let Ethan touch, and signed the final merger document. The last act of Summit Enterprises, written in ink that flowed like blood. "You know," Mom said as we headed to the press conference, "your father was wrong about one thing. He said you were the strong one, the one who didn't need him. But strength isn't about not needing people. What is it about then? Knowing when to burn bridges and when to build new ones." Outside my office, Karen waited with the quarterly reports showing Vanguard's soaring profits. James had the merger announcement ready. Sophia stood with the PR team, ready to shape our new narrative. But it was Emily who handed me the most important document, the new company registration form. In the space for the company name, I wrote carefully, Phoenix Holdings International. Sometimes revenge isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a better one. I stepped toward the press room, my mother and my team beside me. Behind us, the past. Ahead, something new rising from the ashes. Just like a phoenix. Just like me.